So what's the deal with this facial recognition at airports nonsense? Is it mandatory? Let's get into it.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I don't want you to ride. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the streets. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Is the whole world gone crazy? Am I the only one around here who gives a shit about the rules?
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!"
How are you doing, everybody? Welcome back to another Thursday night. I was off last week, as all of you know. I was on vacation, and I posted about this experience, but I've just been itching to get back behind the mic and explain exactly what happened, because it caught me off guard to the point where I wasn't really sure I was hearing what I was hearing, and that I wasn't ready with the video and all that to start, trying to get a documentation of this, but I absolutely want to share it with you. So, and this facial recognition, I want to explain the experience and how they react and how you should handle it in the future if you're a like-minded person. Before I do, please make sure you are hitting the like, subscribe, comment. Let me know where you're commenting from. I always love to know where everyone's coming from, especially the international folks, but certainly around the USA as well. And then I just want to let everyone know, t-shirt sales. To those of you who know, I never really talk about the t-shirts, but the stuff that I have, like I'm wearing right now, Make Civics Great Again. I got one that Yuri was right, with a image of Yuri. So the t-shirts, and then some Article 5 t-shirts, they are available. You can get them through my website. There's a link there to the Etsy store that you can go to be able to purchase any of the t-shirts. I have been selling some lately, and even though I don't talk about them enough anyway, or at least not till I'm deep in the video. So this time I thought I'd get it out like everybody else does, right off the shoot. And then Twitter, those of you who have been following on Twitter, I appreciate you. Last time I was on, we're on that slow climb because I had just gotten on a few months ago. But 200 was the goal. We're now at 235 or something, 231. So we're moving steadily as this is the process that it generally went through with the other platforms, where it's really slow in the beginning because they don't really distribute your content. But as the following grows, they start distributing more. So it's moved to a little bit better than a snail's pace. So True Flag Action, watching from Deep State, New Mexico. Well, I'm broadcasting from the People's Republic of California, so I know your pain, my friend. I know your pain. So let me get into this airport scenario, though. So I'm going on vacation with my family. We're all out. We got through security fine. We signed up for that, global checklist. I've been a TSA pre-check for a long time, and I realized it was like $10 more or something per person to join to get it for international travel. It gets you through customs super quick and all this stuff. It just makes life easier at the airport. So and they give you these like cards that you show them your card and whatever that you're registered. So we go. I'll give you first the trip in, and then the trip back. So we walk into LAX, all right, which I hate doing. I almost always fly out of John Wayne in Santa Ana, but we had no choice. The tickets were a lot cheaper on LAX, and you got to go. You got to go with that. So we got through it. Things went pretty smooth. All right, the TSA checkpoint we kind of went through super fast. You don't have to take your shoes off or all that stuff for that. So I went through pretty fast, and I'm thinking, oh, this is not so far. It's not as bad as I expected from LAX. And we get to the gate, and we all get a sandwich or something, and we were killing time. And then they make an announcement at the gate, right? So this didn't happen during, security or anything like that. This happened at the gate. And they announce, and I'm hearing it as like background noise, but they're talking something about, facial recognition, and they didn't say facial recognition right away, but they mentioned a change to the process of boarding the plane, and then they used facial recognition, and they started explaining that, and then my red flags went up, and I'm like, facial recognition. I'm like, I'm listening, and the woman actually said, "Your face is now your boarding pass," is what she said, and I'm like, "No, it's not. My boarding pass is my boarding pass." But immediately, I'm paying attention, and they've got my interest, and I'm listening to them talk, and I'm looking around at everyone else, and I'm curious to see how many like-minded people there are, right? And how many people, I should say, just heard that and were like, yeah, okay, whatever you need. You need double fingerprints, you need a colon check, whatever you need, I'm in. And sure enough, the overwhelming majority of people that were taking that flight were that way. Now, I'm not bashing those people for any reason. I do think that as a whole, we as Americans need to be more alert. And so immediately I start looking up, what is this facial recognition? What's going on? I'm watching them scan because, I get the cheap tickets. So I got to wait. I'm in like group Z, so I'm like, of the last bunch to go on. But I get my family together and I'm telling them like, listen, guys, we're all, because I looked up on Google and DuckDuckGo and whatnot, and it was telling me and all that these are optional. These are not something you have to do, but that's not how they announce it, right? And this is why everybody was so compliant. And this is where I thought it was creepy, because it took longer to do the facial recognition. The woman standing there, she's doing this on a phone, right? Obviously, there's an app from for the airport on the phone that they're scanning everybody's face into. But first, they have to scan their boarding pass, then they're scanning their face, then scanning their boarding pass. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I walked up to the desk and I asked, there was 2 desks, and I walked up to one of them, not the one where she was checking people onto the flight. And I said to them, is this, I wanted to confirm, like, this is not mandatory, this facial recognition, right? And they were like, and they looked at each other and then looked at me and were like, no, it's not mandatory. As if it gave me the feeling that like, we've got one here. Right. But I don't think that's what I think they were probably trained that there are going to be people like me who don't want to do this. And I think there was some level of curiosity as to how many there would be. And there weren't many. Now, as I'm talking to my family and I'm explaining to my kids, like, listen, I'm leading this. I'm going to walk in. When I walk up to her, I'm going to let her know we're opting out of this. We're just going to scan our boarding passes. You guys just sit tight, have your boarding passes ready to scan when it's time to scan. So as I'm explaining this, there's an older couple sitting there, and the guy says, as I walked by him afterwards, he was like, I heard you talking to your family. He's like, you're right. We don't have to do this facial recognition. And I'm like, no, you don't. You can opt out. It's not I'm like, I'm curious to see how many people opt out or even ask about it. And from what I could see, nobody opted out. Now, there might have been someone, and I wasn't looking because I was still managing things, getting a luggage together, whatever. But I was constantly checking back, and I didn't see anyone, and I mean anyone, say, hey, you know what? I don't want to do this. Now, I bring this up, and I'm bringing this entire issue up just because it's not about what they're going to do with with that data. Like, the question that comes to my mind, and that I want to try and get people to think in this way, where it should come to yours, is that I want you to think in a way where, like I did, where you're saying, well, wait a minute, why? Why do you need my facial recognition? It's taking you longer to board. You're not doing it to streamline things because it's taking longer to do the face scan than it would be to just scan a barcode. And so I'm like, so that's not the motive. And I asked them what the purpose of it was, and they didn't give a clear answer. I didn't walk away having any idea what the motive was. And I'm saying to myself, this just doesn't seem right, right? Like, there's just, I don't like, it's not like they can't get my face, I'm thinking, from other venues, right? But like, even from photos and things like that or whatever. But yet here they are doing this facial scan, and I'm saying, well, clearly they need it for something. And what creeped me out is that the people, the people that are doing this don't know why they're doing it. And this, and not only do they not know, but here's a point. When I told the woman that we were going to opt out, I wasn't rude, right? It's not. She's just doing her job, right? I was just like, yeah, I think we're going to opt out of that. And she didn't say anything at first, but you could see her face visibly changed. But we all scanned in, and as I continue to walk on with my family, she blurts out, "They're going to make you do it in Mexico anyway." And I was like, no, they're not. But I'm like, why would she even say that? And it occurred to me that she wasn't saying that for me. She was saying that for the people that were behind me in line, because she wants them to think, well, this is one way or the other, this is going to get done. And as I'll explain, it's not true. So in any case, if they're asking you for facial recognition, it is not mandatory to use facial recognition. It's just not. It's not. I'm going to get to a few comments, and then I'm going to get to my trip back from Mexico and give you that experience as well. Mike Arnold, how are you, sir, over on Facebook? The microchip in your right hand gets you through even faster. Yeah, exactly, right? And I can tell you, like, I'm a part of this TSA pre-check, as I mentioned, and now I'm on the global pre-check or whatever, so we could get through customs faster. And they've added a new feature, like, I forget the name of it now, but this new one requires a retina scan. And I was like, oh, hell no. And I thought they like added that to pre-check, but then they were like, no, this is a different thing. And I'm like, who the hell would sign up for that? But there they were, one after the other, these people scanning their retinas. I was just like, wow. Like AI data, big data, all of that is creepy enough as it is. It's creepy enough as it is. And honestly, now that I got you on here, Mike, Mike Arnold happens to be a state director, or a regional director, I'm sorry, for Convention of States. We got to start like taking a look at putting together a professionally worded amendment proposal about technology, about privacy from technology. Like, we got to be thinking, we can't let a convention go by and not have this on the table in some way, shape, or form. Like, it needs to be written in there about what our rights are from a privacy perspective when it comes to data collection for big data. Like, and it needs to be sweeping, and it needs to be broad, as constitutional amendments usually are. But that's for sure. Esmaway, I think I'm the only one on Rumble watching. Is that possible? So, guys, we are broadcasting to... No, there's 18 people on Rumble. There are 18 people on Rumble. But how are you, Sheila? Yeah, I'm showing... I just clicked over there. There's about 19 on Rumble. We are broadcasting to X, formerly known as Twitter. We are casting to YouTube, which I don't expect any real viewers, but... it's just an extra click for me, so we still stream there. And then Facebook, which forever has been the largest following. Facebook, there's about 18,000 or so. But I'm trying to build that X following. I'm trying to hedge my bets. These other platforms have been playing games with me lately, and I'm just tired of it. And I would love nothing more to get that 18,000 plus, and then grow it from there over to X, because I feel like even at the 230 or so that we got to now, I could see that we're starting to get more traction on X. So if you're watching on one of the other platforms, please head over to X. It's at patriotthinktank.com. The middle T's, there's one T in the middle, so Patriot and Think is the same T. But you can just look it up as the Patriot Think Tank. Blue check, my face is there, and give me a follow. I would appreciate it. And so let's take a look at take a look at what we got next here. So I like the idea of adding a Declaration of Independence and declaring our republic once again. Yeah, I think, honestly, I think Article 5 just fixes all that. I think Article 5 does declare our republic once again, because once it's established that we have the authority, and this is the thing that people don't know. It's why I do this broadcast. I don't make money at this, despite I'm monetized on Facebook, but with the one thing a week and they're shadow banning my other stuff, I don't make anything on it. I just do this to inform people. And I think once people understand the power of Article 5, like, there's a moment, and I think all the grassroots folks will agree with this, and certainly if it happens to you, you're going to agree with it as well, where you stop and you look at what solutions are possible. Solutions that don't require civil war, solutions that protect your Second Amendment right, but don't necessarily make you need to use your Second Amendment right. And you look at the different solutions that are available, and this is the only one, right? It's the only one. And it does declare our republic, and our independence again, because what it does is it's a flex, right? It's a flex from the American people that changes the relationship between the people and the government forever. I know people are not aware that we have this power. Some are aware, but they're afraid. They've been scared, as if there's something left to lose, right? But there is nothing to be afraid of. It is something that we have to manage. It's something that we have to be all over, right? But in the end, it's absolutely doable. It's absolutely doable. And the best part is, Convention of States action has gotten us more than halfway there already, right? They've got 19 states on board already, and are constantly, every cycle, out at every state legislature trying to move the resolutions forward. And the only thing slowing those resolutions down is the lack of education of the state legislatures. And I don't mean that as an insult. I'm not saying that they're dumb. I'm just saying they don't understand Article 5. They haven't taken the time to look into it, despite being given the information. They're not taking this because you hear the questions that they're asking in these various states when you watch the resolutions go through, as I do, and the questions are clearly demonstrative that they have not read up on the subject. They're not versed on it. They're not aware of like, their questions are the same with every legislature, right? And then the next part is that when they finally do come over, when they finally do pass their resolutions, it's always the sponsor talking about, I was against it before I read into it and became for it. But once you learn it, and once you understand it, and you realize that the people could call these conventions, look, it's not even like, once we get the process done and we put through some impactful things right now, the topics are right here. The term limits, fiscal restraints, and government overreach. That doesn't cover everything, but it covers a lot. And in the end, if we just got term limits, I think, reasonable to pass. Things like a single subject amendment, right into not something the House passes in their rules and then break, but actually in the Constitution, that no bill can be passed that has more than one subject matter in it, right? Make them vote on their own. Make them vote separately for the bill to study the sex habits of Japanese quail while on cocaine. Like, make that the sex habits of Japanese quail while on cocaine study bill, and make them put their name on that, right? That's what it's about, right? But I mean, once we get some of these passed, any of them passed, right? I mean, I want ambitious ones. I want to see, under fiscal restraints, I want to see the 16th Amendment completely overturned. Under government overreach, I want to see the 17th Amendment completely overturned. I want the states to take back their power. that they gave up with that amendment. If you don't know what the 17th Amendment is, it's where the state legislatures gave up their ability to appoint federal senators. It was designed to be that way. Why? Because everything was designed for you to be able to go to your local legislator and get action done. So if you had a Mitt Romney, let's say, in your if he's your senator, right, and you're in Utah, or Liz Cheney, right? So when they went rogue and started misrepresenting their people, how long did it take? Did they have to sit there and wait to get rid of Liz Cheney? She should have been able to be removed right away, but she's not because of the 17th Amendment, right? So I'm for more aggressive stuff like that. But let's say we just got term limits and a balanced budget amendment. Let's say we got that. That alone, okay, the precedent is set, right? Really, if we got nothing, the precedent is still set. That we can, at any time, gather the states together and restrain the federal government. Do whatever we want to the federal government, right? There's no other reason to use an Article 5 convention, because you could just do it the normal process and let Congress, make the proposals. But why would we let Congress make the proposals, right? That makes no sense. The amendments we need are directly aimed at Congress and the rest of the federal government, and they're designed to really bring clarity to some horrible decisions from the Supreme Court over the years. I got some more. Angeles. So you're over on Facebook. Hello, thanks for the effort to let us know about this. Absolutely, Angeles. I've been on this for 3 years. I've been picking away at this for 3 years. I would encourage you highly to take a look at the Convention of States website. Take a look at, sign the petition, understand that they have what's called Convention of States University, which is very well done. I went through all this 3 years ago. Slew of videos that you can watch that really just get you educated about not just the Convention of States in Article 5, but about everything. But about the Constitution in general, and following them, follow them on YouTube, Rumble, wherever you're at, follow them there, because you're gonna see, like I do, right? And mind you, they don't give me all the alerts of stuff that they put out, is they fear this too, right? Like, this is the end of Marxism if the people flex this power. It's the end of. There's no way Marxism can survive if we're able to flex power like that. It just can't happen. Right? Because here's the power dynamic that changes, right? Instead, every single time they want to do one of these crazy ass things that they do, right? All of which, I came out a few weeks ago and said, to me, it's all noise now. Like, let's just get into the solution. We know what the problems are, right? But when they come out and they do these crazy things, what they're going to see, you're going to start seeing in the news, like, oh, well, Iowa, Texas, and New Jersey, let's say, have all, are all rumbling about the start of a convention. They're all putting together a resolution. Once that starts getting out, and then there's like 5, 6, 7 states on, and it's building, they're just going to make the change. Our Bill of Rights was really, in essence, put together this way. It was the threat of another convention that before ratification that got the Bill of Rights added in. Right? So this is not something that many of the Federalists wanted to do, because they felt that, that it's inherent in the way that they constructed such a wonderful Constitution. It wasn't necessary. I think we can all safely say now it was absolutely necessary. If not for, you could stop at amendments number 1 and 2 and know that it was completely necessary. Right? So, but this is where the power comes from, right? But thank you for commenting, Angeles. I appreciate that. We love all the comments that we can get. Susan over on Facebook, the sign of the beast. I think you're referring to the chip that Mike had mentioned earlier. And yeah, I've done videos in the past on this with these, the tech that they're coming out with these chips and the tattoos and all that. And it is incredibly creepy to compare it to Revelations, and a lot of stuff is creepy to compare to Revelations right now. But I will give this air of caution though, right? For good reason, people were convinced that Hitler's rise was the coming of Revelations. They did this with Napoleon too, actually. And there were, if you look at those times, there were a lot of reasons to believe it. Let's let Jesus figure out when when the time is, right? For now, let's just try and combat evil whenever we can, right? and I'm sure when he's ready, you know, he will be with us. So Patricia says, way too much AI. I would have declined. Yeah, and I absolutely did decline, and my family declined. And I'll tell you what happened on the way back. So we're coming back, and now I'm curious to see, all right, are they going to ask for this again? Are they not going to? But it was a little different on the way back because we did the customs thing differently on the way back. So it was a part of that global entry piece right now, right? But they too, for the global entry, despite having a card with my face on it showing that I'm global entry, which they could have easily swiped or, you know, looked at and compared, whatever. But they had all these cameras out there with saying, you know, do you scan your face first? And I was like, well, no, I'm still not doing it. And so we went up there again. My wife's holding, you know, she's, you know how it is. She's holding all the passports. She's holding all the global entry cards. So I go up there and the woman stops and looks at it. She's like, I don't have anything coming up. She's like, did you scan your face? I was like, no. She's like, okay, well, you need to scan your face. I was like, do I? Literally just like that. I was like, I can't just give you the card. And, you know, it's like, well, you didn't give me a card. I was like, okay, well, I didn't know the process. My wife gave me the card. Now, she was visibly annoyed. Okay. She was visibly annoyed. But to take this back to the woman back in LAX, back when I was leaving, she was like, you're going to have to do it on the way back in anyway. And as I demonstrated, no, I did not. So keep that in mind, right? When you're doing this, keep that in mind, because what did I have here? Okay. Yes, they will are just went out of town. I'm not sure, Tony, if you could throw another clarification up there. I'll be happy to jump on that. Oh, so this was from Lady Mern, another grassroots convention estates. So, well, how you doing, Mern? Good to have you on. For those of you who are in Jersey, there's a Surge Day coming up on Monday, June 24th. And it's 10 to 2 in Trenton, in the capital. So if anybody's in town or anybody has the ability to join, hit up Lady Mern on Facebook, and she will be happy to get in with you. Or if you live in that area, just sign the petition and click volunteer. Someone will reach out to you, and you can get in touch with Mern that way. So for sure. All right. So over on Facebook again, Patricia, you know what really bothers me is all tax money going to foreign countries while the middle of America is suffering from her. Yeah, and this is so suffering from horrific weather and need help. Why? Where's our government? Forget the government now, right, Patricia? This is what I'm trying to explain to people. The government's gone. That's a battle that's been lost. All right, and it doesn't matter. Over 100 Republicans voted for the Ukraine money, right? They're not. It doesn't matter what you're clicking at the voter booth. It doesn't matter. Over 100. It's not like there were a few sellouts. It was over 100. I guarantee you, at least 95% of those people, if not 100%, have constituents back at home who don't agree with that spending, but they don't care. They don't care. All right. There's that spending. It's like Unusual Whales had reported with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like she's heavily invested in Boeing, in Lockheed Martin, and these defense companies. They're okay with that money getting spent. Don't let the hoopla and the show and the nonsense on freaking Twitter and wherever else confuse you. All right, he pointed out Nancy Pelosi and the rest of them, but Marjorie Taylor Greene was on that list. I've never liked this woman. I think everything that she initiates is useless. She spent how much time trying to impeach Biden? It's a meaningless freaking activity, symbolic at best. And what does it give you? It gives you Kamala Harris. Like, there are serious issues to be tackled. I think Matt Gaetz is trying to tackle a lot of those issues, like the insider trading in Congress, which is virtually everywhere. But she's not. Right? But, I bet you her constituents have no idea that that's the case. Forget the government. It's broken. It's damaged significantly. There's nothing going to save that government except us. And the way that we save it is through amendment. Like, there's no more asking, right? The federal government has no say in this convention process. I think it's important to note that. They have no say in this. The Constitution basically states once the states have petitioned, the Congress shall, not may or may decide upon, the Congress shall call the convention. Once it's called, there's no role for the federal government whatsoever. Like they literally have to sit down and bite their nails and hope that we don't beat their ass too bad. Like that's because all these topics are restrictive. So there's no issue here. There's no sense of coming in with something that empowers them in any way. The only thing that's coming out of this is going to be restrictive in power. And that's how it should be. But this whole process, people don't realize how this nation's supposed to be governed. We're not supposed to be all about looking at Trump to save us. No president has that authority. As much as I'm going to vote for Trump, my expectations are realistic. He's not saving the country. He could save the border. You could argue that could save the country, but even in a way, but it won't, because we'll still fiscally collapse with or without the border crisis. And he has shown he will do nothing for the fiscal crisis. Like you could talk about jobs and all that stuff. That doesn't fix the debt. The debt clock raced faster under him, faster again under Biden, faster. And every president because it's going faster because no one's there to stop it. No one has the power to stop it except for us. That's it. No president's going to make that debt clock slow down, forget stop. God forbid, move backwards. It's just not going to happen. This has to happen through us. The federal government is structurally damaged, and all of these coconuts that are in there now, even the ones that I like, right? The Chips and Jordans and Gateses and all these people, Rand Paul, I really, even the people I like, they're not changing anything. They're not going to. There's no one you can elect that's going to fix the federal government. Which brings us back to how this country was designed to run. And the country was designed to run through local government. It's why the founders set the states up to select senators, because we need to be able to pull senators. See, if the people in power are easy to remove, and your local legislators are easy to remove, they're easy to get in too. For a properly motivated constituency, they're easy to get in and they're easy to move. And they know this. And that's exactly the people that the founders wanted in control. And that's why they gave them the power to select senators, because we don't need to elect them directly. If you elect them directly, that's why they're in there for 6 years, because they were supposed to be able to be removed. But we took away that ability and left them in for 6 years. It's like, what are we doing? What in the world are we doing? Darren Wayne Smith, the Constitution is pretty damn thorough. Yeah, it's the perversions of it that seem to stick for some reason. There's not even perversions of it. Look, it requires amendments, right? We've done it 27 times, right? The one the founders gave us was not perfect, right? So it was pretty thorough, but it left some gaping holes. Nothing specifically addressing slavery, nothing specific. You could go down the list, right, of things that needed to be added, right? And in the end, there are always going to be things that need to be added. The founders were not aware of AI. Right? As much as they kept their brilliance to general principles that really, like, they were aware that there was going to be a federal governmental threat to the union. They knew that. They knew that eventually the union would get too big, the government would get too out of control and would need to be reeled in. They knew that. That's why they put in Article 5. Right? That's why they put it in. Because they knew they realized that, like, you can't have the original. When it originally came back on the day or two before being completed, they left out the portion of convention, and it was George Mason who stepped in and made sure that he reminded them how ridiculous it is to give. If the government should get out of control, how ridiculous it is that you ask them to make the proposals. That's how ridiculous it is. All right, I've heard out the 535 or 5 are clean. The rest are bought, blackmailed, or threatened with bodily harm. They're not even look. These people are willingly engaged. We want to think that, like, the people we like are being, like, threatened. They're not. Right? They're getting paid. Like they're walking into this game, and this is what Mark Meckler was talking about, who also founded the Tea Party, by the way, and it was a brilliant idea where they hit him in the primaries, right? Because people are just pulling that R, and we keep sticking those frickin' McConnells and everybody else in. Let's change who's on the R, right? And it was brilliant, and they got all these good-minded people into office, and it wasn't but months before the swamp swallowed them. Swallowed them. It could be your best friend who you trust and love and know that they have a great heart, and they will get in there and they will almost 100% likely turn. Because it's the culture. It's the way it all works. They have the senior senator, freshman senator. That's nonsense. There's nothing about that in the Constitution. This is humanity playing seniority games, saying, I've been here longer, I got more power than you. Well, the people didn't elect that freshman senator to get in there and not be able to do anything. It's nonsense. He has the same power that the senior guys do, but that's not how it works when you get in there. All of that stuff, term limits fix that problem. Term limits fix that problem. Like it's a done deal after term limits. And we'll get them. Eventually, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I realize you're saying that only 5 are clean and this and that. And that may be the case, right? They're saying it was 11, but I'm like, nah, I think they got some people in that 11 who are horrific. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, I could go on all day about it. There's not many good people there. I mean, Gates is the only person in the entire House, for as long as I can remember, who actually spoke about what his constituents want, even though it was against what the Congress wants. And my constituents aren't on board with this, so I'm not on board with this. And if every Republican House member took that very same exercise, we would not have the problems that we have right now. But we do have these problems because they're not taking on that exercise. And everything they talk about are these national issues. It's like, you're a House member. I don't care what you think about national issues. I care what you think about the issues of my district. That's what I care about. That's what you're there for. You're not there to represent the United States of America. You're there to represent District 35 or whatever it may be. And they don't think that way because that's not how the culture is there. It's just not how they operate. Two Flag Action over on Rumble. I don't believe the despotic government will allow a cause to just run on through. They will use every tactic. Look, they'll try, but they can't. I mean, the reality of the matter is it's very clear. They've been trying to muddy the waters with this forever. And that's why I say once the process is completed, even if nothing got through, the power is established. Like, even if we can't get the 38 states to ratify, I mean, it's a high bar, right? 38 states to ratify something, getting 38 states to agree on something is not easy. I mean, you're looking at 99 chambers, right? With the House and Senate in all but Nebraska has won. 99 chambers. It only takes a committee from any one of them. Any one of those houses, right, can so 13 out of 99 can stop any amendment from being ratified. So this is not an easy process, but we're not doing it because it's easy, right? To quote Kennedy, we're doing it because it's hard and it's necessary. And frankly, even after we get the 34 states, we need to still, it's not like it's over. It's not like we throw a party. Now we've got to get on our state legislatures about who they're selecting as delegates or commissioners, right? Then we got to get on top of, we got to make it known what amendments we're demanding, right? Be proposed. So that our state goes into this thing, ready to represent us, right? And so like this, and then, once they're in there, right? Like they're going to come out with proposals. And we need to look through that as well. I mean, this is a process, folks. But I guarantee you when we get through it 250 years from now, they'll be talking about this generation right now. And when I say this generation, it's really Generation X combined with some boomers. But it's X to boomer. There aren't many right now. And I hope this changes. But at least even if, and it has to change if we're going to get it done, right? We need to get millennials on board here. We need to get Gen Z on board here. We need to make civics great again, right? We need to educate our population on all of the important things about America, in particular how it works, that is being completely left out of schools. It's completely left. I mean, they removed civics back as when this all began in the late 60s or so, or at least when the first generation of college indoctrinated were spawned, right? They took civics little by little from the late 60s. By the time I got into, I mean, I was born, what, 73? So by the time 1978 or so, and I was entering school, it was gone. There's only social studies at that point. Only social studies. But I don't agree with you, truth. I mean, I don't disagree with you, truthfully, when you're saying that it's that they're going to try and make it chaos. I envision, states like California and New York City and maybe Massachusetts and Connecticut. I could see them coming in trying to blow the whole thing up and act a fool. It doesn't matter. The process remains the same. There's no way to blow it up. There's no way to shut it down. There's too many moving parts and too many people to bribe in a situation like this. Right? And when it gets down to local, and this is what you can't, it's very difficult to fix a local election. It is very difficult to do. The bigger the election, the easier it gets because the more stuff can be swept under the rug. But when you're dealing, there's only so many fake votes you can make. Right? If you're dealing, some of these districts across the country have like 50,000 people in them. Like there's only so many fake ballots you can make up. Like if everybody's motivated to vote, we're in good shape. And this is the way it was designed to work. Solid moral foundation is needed. Yeah, and I'll tell you something, Mern, is that I think that foundation is still here. Right? Like I continue to this day. I've done the example of Solomon Asch and the conformity studies, and then Dr. Matthias Desmet and what they, how they talk about conformity and the percentages that they come out with, and they all tend to stay the same. They all tend to be in the same sphere, if you will. And that sphere is 30% buy full in with the nonsense, right? 30% are all in with whatever the next crazy thing is. And then you've got 30% are like, hell no, I understand the truth. I'm not going to be gaslit. And those are the 30 that are our anchor. And then you've got that 40% in the middle, who they know what the truth is. They know that the anchor is right, but they don't want to get involved. They don't want to be bothered. They don't do politics. Like they're that person. Right? Well, I'm going to put this mask on everywhere I go because I just want to just want to be left alone in grocery shop. Like people need to understand there is no more being left alone. If you continue on being that way, it's going to be taken from either you or your children. And then there will be no being left alone. Trust me. If Marxists come in and gain power, they ain't leaving anybody alone. They ain't leaving anybody alone. More R's need to call their reps. We don't call enough and explain what we the people want. Yeah, I agree. And and I believe, Mern, when you're saying reps, you mean our local reps, right? And that's 100% true. One thing I learned on this Convention of States journey in watching all of these state legislatures debate these issues, because if you follow their page, right? If you follow their page, you'll get alerts when I think it was Hawaii just went live with their presentation of the resolution, and you sit there and watch the process and watch the constituents come up and talk, and you listen to. And I've heard some amazing things come out of the mouths of state legislatures across this country. Right. I talked a lot about one with Mark Meckler, where, he was just flippantly saying, he was like, you guys do politics. I do, my thing. And they stopped him mid sentence. And they were like, he's like, I'm a farmer. Like, I don't do politics. I'm a farmer. He's like, me and the other senator there. He's like, we're statesmen. He's like, we're serving. And you hear things like that, and it floors you, because you're like, you didn't think there were people like that, or because you keep hearing about the federal government. You know what? There are a lot of completely healthy, where even the Democrats are reasonable. Like, these things exist. These people exist. And I do think that the majority of people are still morally grounded and are still people of faith. I think they've drifted from their faith. But I don't think they've lost it completely. I think the majority of people are God-fearing people and are just looking for that avenue to come back. I think a lot of them fall in that 40% category where, where someone tells them, "Well, you really, now we're going to talk about religion and blah blah blah," and they back off instead of being like, "Yeah, we're going to talk about religion." What the hell? What are you trying to crap on God? Like, what's wrong with you? Staying away from you. I don't want to get hit by lightning. Like, instead of confronting these people, they back off, and it empowers these people. And that's what I'm trying to bring about with those percentages. It always drives me nuts, that 40%, because if we do ever fall, it'll be because of that 40%. So, to those watching this, if you found yourself in that way, I understand, but there's no time for that now. There's no time for that. You have to speak, you have to challenge it. It doesn't mean you have to get up in the middle of your job and get yourself fired for over some ESG principle, but you do in your personal life need to go ahead and handle business. And if you can afford, leaving the job and they are that way, then do that too. Lord knows I was about to get whacked over friggin' that stupid jab. All right. So, all right, if justice and accountability would return, that would be sweet. Right, but that's the thing, right? It's not going to return like it's not going to return on its own. The federal government's gone, all right? Just look at it like it's gone. It's a shell of itself. I mean, I hope the military is still functioning at the standards we've all come to love. I know there are a ton of great patriots serving, but I also know there's a bunch of fruitcakes that are getting let in too. So I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know exactly how it lays out. If somebody's in the military active right now, maybe you could let me know. But I see some of these videos come out. And I know some of them are staged, but some of them look pretty legit. So I don't know, but the bottom line is we just have to understand that the government is designed to work locally. It's designed to work with your local legislature. It's designed for us to get together in our neighborhoods. Like, understand there's a strategy behind everything they've done in the last 60 years. Like, it's not like they just picked this and said, I hope this works. It works. We know it works. It worked in China. It worked in Soviet Union. Worked with Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam. It worked with Chavez in Venezuela. It worked with Castro in Cuba. It works. This whole divide and conquer concept is 100% valid. The idea of breaking down the family, breaking down religion, this is all 100% valid. These strategies work. And for decades, we went on not realizing, not wanting to believe that this is true, and thinking that, it's just a young generation doing this. I said, well, those young generations got old. And most of the generations figured it out when they hit the workplace. But, it seems like there's just some, even in Gen X, some slip through. Even in Boomers, some slip through. And it accumulates. And now you've got, millennials, a whole bunch slip through. And now you've got Z, who, personally, I think Z is going to be a huge part in saving us. I do. I don't think that generation is as lost as it gets portrayed. I see these TikTok videos, but I know that's all CCP propaganda, so I don't even get into that. Everything you see on TikTok has the same message, everything. And when I say it's all CCP propaganda, I don't mean that CCP's creating it. No, they've taught these kids over the course of their life that this is the way to think. And now these kids on their own are going out and making these videos talking about how, the oppressors are the bosses, and, the companies are the oppressors, and the people are the victims, and you shouldn't have to do this and do that. And if, all these things, if, a million genders, it keeps getting crazier. But they've taught these kids through our education, through our own education system, which they control. Don't get it twisted. They control it by way of making everyone in it believe what they've been trying to get them to believe for the last 60 years. We are now so advanced in this subversion. There are professors who were subverted. And they all get selected for that reason. They're all in the club. They give each other awards. Then they tout their accolades. Then someone tries to point out how much bullshit they are. And, this man won the, award for excellence at Harvard and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah. Right. But outside of all that, he's still an idiot. And that's just real talk. That's just real talk. The people that Harvard puts out now are literally stupid. Like they're dumber when they come out than when they go in. But it's such an alumni club. It's such a love fest of alumni's children and all this. They don't care. They think the name is still worth something, and it's not. It's not. It's not. So I just, that goes for Yale and the rest of them too. I mean, an economist that comes out of Harvard believes in modern monetary theory. Enough said. Enough said. They're an idiot. They're an economic idiot. But I'd say they spent all this money on their education, but most of those people get free rides. They get free rides. Because their parents donate to Harvard anyway. And that's just the reality of it. We are overrun, sir. All critical infrastructure is infiltrated and large insurgency continues. It's getting sketchy. It's been sketchy. And you're right. We are overrun. The battle, and I've said this before too, like this battle to like save the republic, like we're at a stage now where the republic itself is not lost because the Constitution still stands, right? But for all intents and purposes, from a culture perspective, that battle's already lost. Like this is the war is not lost, but that battle, the battle over culture, is lost. They own our education system. They've been at this for 60 years while we slept. And now we're all awake and we're wondering how crazy this is. How did this all happen? How did we get here? Well, that battle's over. You missed it. You missed it. China's still at war with us. Still, they've been at war with us since 1949. And it has never changed. And none of us knew it. And that's why they were so successful. I mean, there were commissions who were addressing the communist professor situation in universities back when it was like only 3,000 of them, of the million or so that are out there. And it was dismissed. It was dismissed as everybody believed it couldn't happen in the United States. And here we are. And I love, I love exposing these Marxists online. When you get these people who try to troll with comments on Common Sense posts, you start attacking Marxists. Don't you like just tell them the reason you're wrong is because it would bring about Marxism, and then go on and bash Marxism. And eventually they crack. Eventually they have to come out of their closet, because they'll start off by, oh, so now we're assuming I'm a Marxist and blah, 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 blah. You don't even know me. And I'm like, I didn't assume you're a Marxist. I'm just saying Marxism is an idiotic ideology that blah, 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 blah. And I just go on the rail against it. And eventually they'll come out and be like, well, you don't even know what Marxism is. Have you read Karl Marx's book? And I'm like, there it is. Like, no one who understands Marxism for what it is comes out and makes statements like that. Nobody. And that's where it comes out. And that's what these people are. They've been taught things like Marxism has never been tried. If we only had the right leader, like how arrogant is that? If we just had the right leader, it would work. Like, they don't understand that, like, it's the Marxism that creates the tyrant, not the tyrant that creates the Marxism. Like, there's a reason why it always turns tyrannical. It's not because we keep getting bad people. It just makes me crazy, but it definitely is getting sketchy. I cannot deny that. Let's see, I hope it gets done soon. Been in support for like a decade. Was in Texas till 2019. Yeah, listen, it takes a while. Okay, so like I want it to get done soon too. But amending the Constitution is not easy. Remember, income taxes were unconstitutional for decades and decades and decades. The progressives were trying to get income taxes put through forever. And it wasn't until the bizarre year of 1913. Now, they had income taxes implemented during the Civil War because it was a do or die situation. They either generate that money or it won't matter because we won't have a union. But as soon as the war ended, those were revoked. And then, and then they tried again and the court shut it down. They tried again and the court shut it because it was unconstitutional. Until the progressives, after decades of fighting, eventually made it constitutional. The climate in this country politically in 1913, I can only imagine. They introduced income tax, and then, not coincidentally, at the end of the year, on the December 23rd, in the dead of night, when half the Congress wasn't even there, went ahead and introduced the Fed. Why? Because now they have income tax, so now they can control spending. Right? This is how the game was set to be played. It's still played that way today. Still played that way today. But they needed the income tax in order to frickin' pay the debts, the interest on the money that the Fed was now going to be creating. There's nothing centrally planned that ever works out. Ever. Some people are like, oh, the military. Honestly, our military's been great. But the amount of money that gets pissed away in that military is outrageous. Like we could provide everything that we provide with better benefits and better health care and all of it for far less money than it currently costs us because our government's inept. Our government is inept. And that's just the reality of it. They're just, Well, he says Civil War was a continuation of the Revolutionary War. I don't know if I agree with that. I think I see where you're going with that. But, in reality, it was inevitable. I would say this, it was inevitable because the slavery issue wasn't addressed up front. So for that reason, because the slavery issue was not addressed immediately and they decided to punt, then the founders knew a civil war was likely to happen. They were hoping that there'd be a peaceful resolution and whatnot, but they knew it was coming. I mean, Jefferson changed the language from property to pursuit of happiness because he understood, right? If it was life, liberty, and property, that later on this would come back to blow up in our face because the South would be like, well, we have a right to our property. And they would call their slaves property. So it was changed to pursuit of happiness. They knew there was going to be conflict down the road, and they punted, and that gave us the Civil War. And a reckoning it was. A reckoning it was. But you know what? It was a good part of its outcome was a good part of the American experiment. We continue to grow. We continue to learn. We had wide open capitalism forever, and then we got the Titans. And we realized, all right, there's probably some restriction that needs to go in once one company has eaten everyone else, right? So we're going to have to make them regurgitate a few of those companies to keep people, to keep things right. So there are things that we learn as we go, as we are right now. And this Article 5 convention is another chapter in the American experiment. People think the country's lost. I'm like, it's not lost. The Republic is not lost. It's in dark days. And this, there are lessons being taught to us, okay, about complacency, about not paying attention, about not appreciating our freedom, taking it for granted. There are lessons being learned here. And they're painful lessons. But they're still lessons. And in the end, we will turn this whole damn thing around. We'll turn it around. I think it's inevitable that we turn this around. It's just a matter of time. And I realize how it looks gloomy sometimes, but it's not. And you think, oh, well, you got all your faith in this convention of states. Yeah, I kind of do. Like, to me, I got all my faith in the American people is what I have. Like, I think it's just a matter of time before, everyone's got their own trigger mechanism that pisses them off more than anything. But in the end, I mean, right now we've been living in this cloud nine world where no one's allowed to touch, Social Security. No one's allowed to touch, Medicare. No one's allowed to make any changes whatsoever, but yet they're failing. Like these are things that need to get addressed, and we won't address them. And we'll vote for anybody who swears that they won't address them. When a few people tried to get up and said, hey, for the youth today, You know, they need, like, the country needs to pick up the tab for the elderly. Everyone who's been made the promise and has done it, you know, for whatever. And those that are young now, though, and entering the workforce need to go on a privatized plan. It needs to happen. It needs to come off it makes up like freaking Medicaid and Social Security make up like 90% of the US budget. That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. But as soon as somebody says that, you know, they're going to push grandma off a cliff. Everyone becomes a 5-year-old and can't, and you know, they won't let anyone come in who wants to talk to them like an adult. Like, I just feel like sooner or later, the American people are going to wake up. That's all I just feel like eventually people, whatever it is that has to hit the fan for that person, they're going to wake up. They're going to realize a change is necessary. They're going to look around for one. And the only thing they're going to find that makes any freaking sense, and believe me, I've done this, is an Article 5 convention of states. And then they have to learn. Now they got to take their civics class. And fortunately, it doesn't take that long to figure it out. But once they do, again, that light goes on. That light goes on, and next thing you know, they're on board. Because once you see it for what it is, and you understand the levity, the broad-reaching power of this solution, you realize this is what we need. Like, if I were to just verbalize it differently and say, you know, if I were to verbalize this differently and just say, look, what if I told you we had a solution where the American people can make changes to the way the federal government operates in any which way they want, and the federal government would have nothing to say about it? Would you be for that solution? And everyone would say yes. And then it's just a matter of convincing them that that solution is already here. It's already here. So I hope you guys just, if anything, from the initial story that I was talking about before I broke it into convention of states, started answering some questions and reacting to comments. What I want you to get from that whole face recognition piece, it's not so much what they're doing with it. I just want you to walk away from this knowing, ask the questions. And when they act matter-of-factly, like, okay, this is how it's going to be done, you put the brakes on, right? There were way too many, I would say, I don't know how many people, a couple hundred people, whatever it was on that flight, almost every one of them, okay, is that what we're doing? Is that the new process? Okay, and just did it. Like, if you don't know why they need something, if you don't know the purpose behind it, if they can't clarify the purpose behind it, it doesn't matter what they're doing with it. It doesn't matter if there's absolutely nothing nefarious at all going on with that facial recognition nonsense. The reality of the matter is, don't do it. Like when given the choice to do something that your gut doesn't feel right doing, don't do it. And don't worry. Don't be that 40%. Be that person who knows that this is BS and I don't want any part of it. And you don't have to be angry about it. You don't have to be mad about it. Just, you know, I'm going to opt out. I'm going to opt out. And I like True Flag Action as far as a final word here. So God is with us. Whatever happens, I've been at DEFCON 2 for a while. That kind of sums up, you know, what every good patriot is kind of at mentally right now. It's like, and the reality is God is with us. So, you know, it's, in the end, we're not losing, right? Marxism's never won. It never will. It always has these dangerous moments, but in the end, there's no way they're going to be able to pull off a full, I don't care what kind of crisis they start. So, and yeah, Lady says, amen, good advice. Yeah, it was. So True Flag, thank you for that. As a go away quote. But I will say this, guys, I will be on next week on Thursday. Please make sure you follow and you know, give me that like, and I appreciate all of you who have commented. It definitely helps the channel to grow. I am up against it with these guys. They are not Article 5 fans, and they hate the fact that I do not talk friendly about the CCP and I do not talk friendly about the WEF, which I feel are almost the same thing. If you know, I don't speak nicely about government messaging. So I need all the help I can get from you guys. It's a simple click, especially on Rumble, right? I usually get like 19 to 20 people on there, but I only get like 3 or 4 subscribers. Like, click that subscribe or follow button and help me out there to help the distribution of the channel. All right, folks, until next time, you can always reach out to me on X. It's at the Patriot Think Tank with one T in the middle. So you can look it up as the Patriot Think Tank. Blue check is there. So I'm all good to go. Until next time, I'm out.